Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Omar Ritter. He is a West Point graduate, a Bronze Star recipient who led soldiers in Iraq, and a Columbia MBA who climbed to the C-suites at giants like JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo. But Omar is here to tell us about the armor we wear to survive high-stakes environments and sometimes become a cage. Behind the medals and the billion-dollar deals, he was fighting a private war with PTSD and surviving an 18-hour brain surgery that forced him to confront his own mortality. He joins us to dismantle the superhuman fallacy, the idea that leaders have to be invincible, and to share why true strength isn't about how much pain you can hide, but how much truth you can speak. So, Omar, it's an honor to have you on Fieldcraft. Thank you for your service and for being here today, sir.
Thank you for having me, Ezekiel. Happy to be
It's
here.
great to, it's great to have you here. So let's dive in, Omar. Your journey spans two of the most high pressure environments on earth, the battlefield and Wall Street. In both places, vulnerability is often seen as a liability. You've successfully led troops and financial operations, but you've been incredibly open about fighting a private war with PTSD. So can you take us back to the moment you realized the tough it out strategy, the one that got you through West Point and Iraq, was actually failing you in your civilian life? So was there a specific day in the boardroom or at home where the armor finally cracked?
Yes. So, what I would tell you is that I worked with PTSD, anxiety, other mental health issues for a couple of decades. Part of which I was in the military because I went to fight in Iraq. I did a tour in Kosovo as well. And I had PTSD from that, and I had some anxiety as well, but I didn't address it because I was so busy just trying to do the mission. So fast forward to me getting out of the military, and when it was time for me to really address that PTSD and anxiety, I had a brain tumor. So then I had 18 hours of brain surgery. So I had to focus on getting healthy from the brain surgery, learning to walk again, learning how to run again, being able to live a normal life after a few more surgeries post the brain surgery. So that took my eye off the ball in terms of the PTSD. And then I was also transitioning into a new career because I couldn't be in the military anymore due to the brain surgery, which was a career on Wall Street. So I was so focused on doing well there. And I will tell you that my hypervigilance, et cetera, some of my mental health challenges actually made me a great Wall Street banker because I wanted to make sure every number added up, every slide was correct, even if I had to stay at the office 24 hours to get that done. Fast forward 20 years down the road, I finally had my first child, who's now 3 years old, and a couple of things happened to me. I had probably 5 or 6 friends that I knew commit suicide, and the last time that it happened to me, it was a murder-suicide with somebody that I was very close with, and that really hit home, and that's when I hit rock bottom, and when I hit that rock bottom, I had 2 choices: keep acting like nothing was going on and end up, in probably a bad position, or go and get some help. I chose to do the tougher route, raise my hand, and go and get some help to address my issues, right? So I had to invest in getting that help. So I would say my daughter really made me realize that I needed to get that help because I wanted to be there for her, Ezekiel.
All right, Omar, thank you very much for sharing that with us. So you survived an 18-hour brain surgery. That's a terrifying loss of control for a man used to being in charge. So did facing that level of physical vulnerability change the way you lead people? Did it make you softer or just clearer?
What it did for me, Ezekiel, is it made me have more empathy. So really recognizing that if I just look at you, I can make a bunch of assumptions about you and about your work ethic, etc. But in actuality, I don't really know you until we have a conversation, we spend some time together, I figure out what your values are, etc. And so, for example, when I was a young man in the army on Wall Street and folks would show up late to work, I'd automatically be like, this person really doesn't want to be here. But after having that brain surgery and really having empathy, I tried to figure out why somebody would be coming to work late. Is it because they have to take care of their parents or their spouse, or they have to drop their kid off at daycare? And I would try to work around that. So it really changed me, made me more of an empathetic leader in terms of just not trying to drive people hard and making assumptions about why they're doing things and actually being able to ask the question and try to work with them to make things better.
Okay, so Omar, you were the guy everyone relied on, the commander, the CFO. So people rarely ask the strong leader if they are okay. So did you feel isolated by your own competence? If so, then how did you finally learn to raise your hand to say, I'm not okay?
Everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody wants to be the CEO. So, or they're in the C suite. So, if you go on LinkedIn, you got thousands of CEOs and people that are in charge. But in truth, when you're in charge, it's on you to be responsible for everyone else on your team and make sure that they're cared for, etc. While you're doing that, you could get lost in that with how you're doing yourself. And I intentionally was one of those people that always cared so much about my teams, whether it was in the military, whether it was on Wall Street, etc., making sure my team performed at a high level and that I supported them. I really didn't like to, I would shield my team because I really didn't like for my team to get a bad name. I always wanted us to win. And so with that, I would put the extra hours in, make sure that we were best coordinated, etc. And I would always check on my team to see how they were doing. But I didn't always get that from my bosses to see how I was doing. And so in that, I just carried this false sense that everything was okay, everything was supposed to be tough. And again, after I lost several friends who I thought were doing very well, both military and civilian, it really opened my eyes that the leader also needs to take care of themselves and that it's okay has someone that's not the leader to ask your leader, how they're doing and check in on them, right? I think it's 360. We should all be checking in on each other and having serious conversations with one another.
Great. So, Omar, you advocate for leading with empathy. So, how do you answer the hard-nosed executive who says empathy is nice, but we have targets to hit? So, how do you prove that empathy actually drives performance?
Empathy drives performance in a few ways. So, one of the biggest costs to an organization is actually both in time and money, is actually your people leaving the organization. So I have Ezekiel, he's a great employee. I don't understand why he's sometimes late or not focused on certain meetings. And so I jump to a conclusion and say, he's not a good employee. Although he's delivering, I just think he's not a good employee because I don't know much about him. So Ezekiel ends up leaving and going to a competitor. So now what I have to do as a manager is find somebody else on the team to take his work or take some of that work myself and then go into the recruiting and interview process. That's a lot of money and time wasted when we could have just went to Ezekiel, checked in on him, see how he's doing, make him more productive instead of starting back at the drawing board, doing all the recruiting, etc. So there's actually an expense benefit or a cost save to taking care of your people. And that truly is because everybody has to take time to get up to speed. So why would I want to let a good employee go to replace them with somebody who might be good because you don't know who's walking through that door next.
All right, all right. So, in the military, you know the enemies, what are the operations, what tasks to be done. But in the corporate world, the threats are quite different. You are faced with burnout, politics, stress, etc. So, for you, which environment was harder to navigate mentally and why?
I would say for me, the military was quite natural for me because my father was in the military, my grandfather was in the military. I grew up on military bases all over the place, went to 5 different high schools. So I understood what the mission was as an officer, which is take care of the troops. And look, there's politics in the military as well, especially as you continue to climb the ladder and ranks, and
Mm,
especially in the officer ranks. But Wall Street, corporate America is a bit different because there's a lot of unwritten rules that people may not know in terms of how to navigate. And what I would say is, what's a mentor versus a sponsor, right? So a mentor is somebody you can go to for advice, they'll advocate for you at times, etc. But a sponsor is somebody that can actually pull you up through the organization. And so what I didn't realize until quite some time on the street is that having mentors is great, but you also need to have that sponsor that's gonna pull you up with them because that's part of working smarter and not harder. Because Ezekiel, good work, hard work is only going to get you so far in this world. People have to actually notice that you have hard work, notice that you're successful, and want to take you with them as they continue to climb the mountain to success. So
all right.
definitely corporate America, definitely for sure.
It's a great one there. Great response, Omar. So for the leader listening right now who is putting on the brave face and crushing their KPIs, but crying in their car on their way home. So, what's the first safe step they can take today to drop the mask without blowing up their career?
Yeah, and that's a great question because dropping your mask per se and blowing up your career, it doesn't have to be like that. And when we talk about dropping the mask, I mean dropping the mask internally to yourself. So, no, you don't go to the whole organization and say, I have all these issues, I'm feeling bad, etc. But what you should do, and this is because if you're at some of these large organizations, you're actually paying into healthcare, insurance, etc. Even at some of the small and medium companies, you pay a monthly fee for insurance. And with that insurance comes mental health as well as like healthcare. Mental health is part of healthcare. And so if you're having issues, you're allowed to use the insurance that you pay into, by the way, to talk to a therapist, talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to seek out that help for yourself. I'm guilty because I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars into these insurances over 20 years. And it took me my 20th year to actually use something that I paid for to get that help. Oh, by the way, there's plenty of free help out there, nonprofits, helplines that folks can call to have a conversation with somebody that doesn't cost you anything. So don't think every time I say get some help, it's money out of your pocket. But the biggest thing that stops people from doing this is they think that their boss or their team, et cetera, is going to find out. But I want to reiterate that there is a medical privilege where that information doesn't get passed on to anyone to know why you're seeking that treatment or if you're even seeking that treatment because it's a different line to go to get that treatment. So don't let that stand in your way at all.
Okay, fantastic one there. So, Omar, I have a personal question for you. After surviving war, surviving surgery, and redefining your identity beyond the uniform and the suit. So, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
So being successful to me, Ezekiel, means a few things, right? One of the things that I've done to try to make myself successful in my eyes is I wrote this book. It's called West Point
Mm,
to Wall Street: My Journey to Mental Wellness. And this book, West Point to Wall Street: My Journey to Mental Wellness, talks about my journey from West Point to the military to Wall Street to where I'm at now in terms of really taking some time out, the things that got me to the place where I was having mental issues, even from a child, to where I'm at now, where I seek treatment and go to a therapist once a week and take my medication every day. I have to make that choice. And so that's one of the things that helps fulfill me is getting the word out there to folks that it's okay. And I want to be able to really support folks in having the conversation about mental health and make it an everyday conversation and not something that's taboo. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what I currently do now is I'm a fractional CFO and an area president at an organization called Focus CFO, where I own a franchise of this business. And my goal in this business is to help small and medium-sized business owners understand their financials at their company. So stringent financial management that can help them take their company to the next level in terms of growth. So really putting small and medium-sized businesses in a place where the owners can succeed and actually have real transferable value out of their business. Because Ezekiel, 80% of business owners that think they're going to sell their business end up not selling their business. And this is a
Mm.
problem because business owners have 90% of their value locked into their business. And so if they're not able to sell it when they get ready to exit, then they don't ever get that value. Where people like you and I, we might have stocks, savings, etc. Most of their money is tied into that business, and they're hoping at the end of the road they can sell it and be able to capitalize on that. And so we're here to help them realize some of that upside in the business.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that with us,
No
Omar.
problem.
So, for our listeners who want to go get your book or speak to you or perhaps connect with you online, so where's the best place for them to go?
So the best place for all things Omar Ritter is omarritter.com. If you go to Omar Ritter, OmarRitter.com, there's links to purchase my books. There's also links to my YouTube site to see some of the interviews that I've done and some of the points I've made on both business and health. So omarritter.com is a great place to start. On Instagram on omarritter.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So I would say really focus on omarritter.com. That's my hub for everything.
All right, Omar, this has been such a powerful conversation about what real leadership looks like, and I am very excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. And my call to action for everybody listening to this is please, please, please take your mental health seriously. It's not something that you can stand on the sidelines with. As human beings, what we like to do when we get injured or we get sick is say, I'll wait till Monday to go to the doctor because I don't want to ruin my weekend. Well, guess what? With mental health, it doesn't work that way because you may not make it until Monday if you wait for your weekend to be over. So I just really want to emphasize taking care of yourself and for us to take care of each other and to make the mental health conversation part of our daily conversation as we check in on each other and care about each other. It's just the right thing to do, and that's why I'm here. So, Ezekiel, I appreciate you having me on your show, and I look forward to connecting with your listeners.